welcome everybody on board. Thank you so much for joining us. I believe that the global pandemic has accelerated long-standing trends, bringing the nature and characteristics of the future successful enterprise into a final resolution. Evolving the DNA of future enterprise will require CEOs to close a key capability and execution gaps, as well as embrace a mindset of continuous transformation. And I believe you all must be agreeing with me. Now, to realize a sustainable competitive advantage, CEOs must also embrace three interconnected value drivers. One being human-centered approach, second being technology at speed, and third is the innovation at scale. I'll begin with my first question with Mr. Anurag. Surveys claim that companies are now spending more to accelerate this new age transformation by spending on their mental wellness and comforting them with necessary infrastructure to carry a seamless workflow. How far do you think it will be a lot more helpful in retention of talent in times to come?
Thanks, Sugandha, and thanks everyone to my fellow members and all the participants. So, a very warm good morning. I think, Sugandha, you raised a very pertinent question, and I look at it a little differently. I'm a big believer of Maslow's theory, which starts from the basics, which is like a food, housing. It goes to the security, right? The security aspect of life, where you need to be secured, right? And then it goes to love being recognized, and then it moves to self-esteem and actualization. And I'm looking at the context of pandemic, right? I think one thing as an organization, ourselves and a lot of us has been very compassionate, where we said, why not? Before we get to the well-being, let's address the basics and safety. I think let's address the basic needs of our employees, our people, our members, which essentially means securing their jobs, securing their salaries, not cutting down salaries, not letting them go, making sure that they get rewarded. And I think then what you kind of come to the basics is how you're being loved and being taken care of. And that's where the well-being comes. So I would give a lot more. And I have seen some unfortunate incidents across the industry and in a very heavy way, where people were let go, people were asked to take lesser, salaries. To me, I think well-being comes much later. So I would probably take it a level below or above the way you want to look at it. And I would say well-being was important for us, but I think once only I have secured or we have secured our people, saying that we care for you guys, right? Your jobs are secured. Your salaries are secured. You would get incentives. Keep performing. We are with you, stand by you. And then you kind of, wrap around that whole well-being with asking them in a genuine way, authentic leadership. And, caring about them and their families, doing a set of things which Paul talked about. I think a lot of us have done that, arranging for oxygen, concentrators, getting beds for our people, setting up task force. To a very small thing, but very worth mentioning. There were times when families had COVID across the family members, right? Everybody was COVID, or the women is COVID centric, right? What we did, we started arranging meals for them for those 15 days. I think something as trivial as that, I think starts from there, but I would still go by saying that make your people feel secured, that their jobs, their salary, everything's secured, and well-being comes later. So that's my take, Sugandha.
No, I agree with your point of view as well, that yes, wellness is an important part, but then making sure that their future is secured is even more important, because that way they'll actually have that trust factor on their companies as to they'll stand by us no matter what. And I would really want Rajendra sir also to elucidate upon a bit as to what is your view on this.
Absolutely. I heard the previous speaker talking about the purpose. A company like ours has a purpose and has values. We have very few, very clearly defined values. What is very important is in this tremendous onslaught of pandemic, which is challenging humanity, industry, business, that includes us as well. We had been able to manage something unwittingly, which helped us. If I also include Anurag's comment about here, we tried to become digital in 2017 in a huge way and in a frictionless way. That means we wanted to integrate all our digital software, our people, our training, and everything to be integrated from 2017 onwards. So when 2019 we were struck by pandemic, we could successfully bring two things. We are an MNC in 14 countries and 30,000 people we manage. So we had to do work from home. Almost 50 to 60% people switched to work from home. That didn't mean their work at site was not needed, because we are a utility. But we also created bubbles in 14 countries where sites, essential staff had to live. We even created bubble residences till we learned more and more about this pandemic, the disease, the vaccinations, the masking, the distancing, and so on and so forth. So imagine almost 30 to 40% of our workforce lived in bubble, volunteered to work into remote areas, and the rest people worked at home. This is number one. Not a single person was asked to leave. We managed to retain everybody.
That's a great point.
And not a single person's salary was impacted, neither bonuses, etc. They still remained concomitant to your performance, not linked to pandemic at all. The second thing I want to share. Third, in this perilous times, Anurag mentioned something very important: reaching to the last mile, oxy concentrators, or to provide oximeters, and also to support in hospitalization, have the empathy, has come out to the fore, to the surface. It's the top priority for all of us to make sure that our workforce is digitally, globally monitored, like through Intellex and other software. So we know everything in every country happening in our company, sitting in the room that I am for the moment, the last 14 months. But having said that, software, digitization, empathy, connecting to the people, to my colleagues, and everybody stepping up and recognizing that this is unusual times. It may last for several weeks and months. Nobody knows, because if America, where we are opening, Latin America, we are not able to open, India, we are not able to open. Vietnam, we are partially opening because that's a very rigid country which succeeded. So I would stop here, but the big message to everybody is that this is the time where working together as a team with empathy and still holding to your core values is the glue that binds us. Sugandha.
Of course, and I believe that yes, there comes a time, Paul also said, when leaders have to, adorn the hats of being, humane into their approach, and rightly, you also quoted the same. Alok sir, staying at a pace with the evolving workplace culture, other factors are, bound to overpower the employee concerns and needs to a lot of extent. How, in your view, should a leader manage to stay afloat in such a situation? Rather, is there a need to be tiptoed towards employees' concern in such adverse situations? And if yes, then how?
Yeah, thanks, Sugandha, for the question. And it's an honor to be here. Thanks for inviting me. It's an honor to be in the esteemed company of Rajiv, Rajendra, and Anuragji. I have a very strong belief on this question, and I had come across a quote a couple of years back. It said that adversity does not build character; it actually reveals it, and that is very true for not just the leaders, but also for employees and every stakeholder who is part of an organization, whether in pandemic, before pandemic, after pandemic, etc. It is how we deal with adversity that really shapes who we are and will shape who we are as a leader going forward. I'm just going to go back to your question, and you see the employees, employees ask for a lot of things, and as leaders, we are constantly, the most important thing is to keep listening to them. But if you really summarize, there are 4 things that an employee is looking for in his job. And before I get there, let me remind all of you that, we are 30% of the global population is actually millennials. And by data, by 2025, 70% of the global workforce will be millennials. Now, before we talk about what we have to do, I just want to bring the audience in the focus. Whom are we talking about? This audience, this millennials, their requirement for job is very different today. It is different from what my parents were looking for, which is salary,
Exactly.
security, go home, saving, give education to my children. It's very different now. They are looking for job flexibility. They are looking for meaningful work. They're looking for autonomy. They're looking for network and connections, right? So the requirement of this population is changing very drastically. But the four things that stays and has got accelerated and magnified is, number one, they are looking for a stable and secure work experience. Now, what does that mean? They are looking for job security, and Anuragji touched upon that. They're looking for financial stability. They're looking for an ability to predict that if I continue in a job like this, after a certain path, here's where I may be, provided I perform. As a leader, therefore, our job is to provide that organization stability, that financial performance, that compensation and benefits that is commensurate to the performance of the individual. The second thing that they are looking for is inclusion and a sense of belonging in the organization.
Right.
They are looking for a fair place to work. They're looking for meritocracy. They're looking for respect. They're looking for equality in what they do. And therefore, how you design your appraisal system, how you reward and promote people, how transparent you are about that is extremely important to make employees feel that they are part of an organization that treats them fairly. The third big thing is they're looking for trusting relationships. They're looking for recognition at the work. And therefore, as a leader, it's important how we show up. What is our say-do ratio? When we say something, are we really walking the talk? Are we really doing it? And employees watch it, right? So how do you build that trust from senior leadership down all the way into the organization is massively critical. And the fourth one, which is extremely important, but I have seen that in India, it does not get played out that much because of the fact that we are a developing country and we have a lot of compulsions, is an individual purpose and contribution. How does an employee feel like, why do I come to work every day? Now, nobody thinks about that, but when you go to Western cultures, and we heard some of the other panelists in the previous session, they are more mature about why they are working and what are they doing. So how do you connect an organization's goals and purpose to the individual goal and purpose? I think it's extremely important. So these are the four things you can summarize as what an employee is looking for. Mm-hmm. Now, I think it's vitally critical, even in pre-pandemic, more so in pandemic and in this adversity, that leadership is transparent and communicating. It is not about communicating everything that the audience wants to hear. At NEC Corporation, we have taken some very tough decisions that we had to last year when the pandemic opened up and we didn't know where the world is going to go. And we took some conservative steps, but we never fired a single individual. Going back to Rajendraji's point, we have given, unlike most of our peer group, we have actually paid everybody the salary retrospectively. Many of our peers and competitors actually paid salary from the day they announced that, look, your salary increment will start from here. We went back and said, look, we are delaying the announcement. We wanted to watch the environment. We've got a better control of that. Now we are going to pay everything that is due to you from the date it was due to you. And everything that you heard Anuragji and Rajendraji talk about, we have created COVID task force. We have created, for everybody, in an unfortunate incident that any employee gets deceased, we are paying 1 year's salary to the employee's family. We now have one of the country's best medical insurance that we have provided to our employees, which has 0% copay. Now, idea is not about numbers. Nobody expects that I'm going to fall sick tomorrow and therefore this is a benefit that I'm getting. This is about giving peace of mind to employees. This is about the trust that you as a leadership is giving away to our employees to say that, look, I got your back. You don't worry. And I think it's extremely important in an environment like this, where there is very small, very thin line between work and life. There is no difference in work and life today. And it's got accentuated by the pandemic. So I think how we show up as a leadership, how we are listening to them, how we are translating what we are listening into benefits that matters to them, and how we are communicated on time with the right sensitivity, with full transparency. There are some things that we can do. There are some things, we are not gods. There are some things we can't do. Let's be transparent about that. And I think employees really, truly appreciate that. We have seen that happening in our at NEC Corporation in India. Back to you, Sumant.
Well, I'm glad that, whatever initiatives that you've been taking, you're seeing actually the retrospective effect also on the same when you say that, your employees are pretty happy with your approach. Rajiv, sir, I would really like you to know, answer as to if we talk about employee centricity and aligning them with companies' objectives. Now, how do we match this, keeping both of these aspects into the same pandemonium?
Good morning to everyone, dear BW team, and it's an honor to be with you all. And I was very keenly listening to all my predecessors said, and it was very interesting. And I will start with the bubble word, which Rajendra ji said. Just to take you away from whatever we are discussing. I never knew the meaning of what is a bubble unless I heard it from Mr. Hardeep Puri, the aviation minister, that some bubble is being done and this and that. So, but in my own way, I must compliment my HR. They had formed a bubble as early as March end last year. And they were not knowing the meaning of it. What they did, as soon as the pandemic started, I'm talking of the COVID-1, March 22nd, March 23rd, 2020 to be precise. So what they did, since the office had to open and few people, and we are in infrastructure space, the operation and maintenance has to go, few people have to come to office, whatever. So what they did, now people have to come to office, they require the pantry, they require at least some basic tea and some snacks. So they created a bubble of their own without understanding what is bubble. And what we'll be keeping the pantry boys and housekeeping boys 6 days in the office, and we'll be arranging their lunch and everything, like what Anurag was saying for the employees. And it looked so simple, yet it's so meaningful actually. So I will start with this. Pandemic has given us the opportunity to learn new things. Whether you are in a leadership position, whether you are executor, whether you are HR guy, whether you are finance guy, everyone has to behave in a different kind of way. Coming back to your question, what I see is there are three cornerstones of there are three cornerstones. One is discipline. Okay, when you engage with employees, the discipline means you go to biometric, check the attendance, be very harsh. But in this COVID world, we have become very, very, I would say,
flexible.
We have to be compassionate, we have to be kind, we have to be sympathetic. So unless, and we have to be full of empathy. So that discipline is not veering towards this kind of thing. We have to find a balance. Why people have to work from wherever they are, whether it's work from home, whether it's work from office or work from anywhere. But that sense has to come in the leaders, in all the managers, even with the employees, because they are also leading team of contractors, vendors. So they have to also behave in the similar way. Second is the engagement. The engagement has now found a new meaning, especially with the COVID-2. Now you need to engage with the families. Earlier, people were not having details of the mother, father, sister, brother of the employees. In general, I would say, few companies were having it. At least my company was not having it. They were having in bits and pieces in some CV when he applied and all. So we have taken a very positive kind of, what I would say, detailing. Our HR, first we should have the addresses. Whom do we contact? Actually, that mobile number goes off, he's sick. Who do we contact? So we have taken, and we are still doing it. It's a challenge. We're trying to build a database of each and every employee so that we can reach out to his or her family. And this engagement will not end with the employee family. It also means the inclusivity. It also means the diversity. It also means the hierarchy-less boundaries in which we have to work. And the COVID has made it very clear we need to have lower, what I'd say, we need to have lesser layers. We need to demonstrate, walk the talk, and also we need to quickly take action wherever it is required without being too bureaucratic of getting the approvals. Of course, the approvals has to be taken, But so, and third is about learning. Learning, when I say learning here, learning new skills, they were always paramount. But yes, whether we have like when I said about bubble, or even when I say the performance management. So I'm bringing the learning in the two things, that is performance management. We cannot, some of us micromanage actually. What employee is doing, where has he gone, has he sent the report, has he sent the WhatsApp, has he sent the message, has 5 customers been contacted today. So we have to learn and unlearn some of these things. We have to build the trust. We have to believe wherever he is working, he is contributing, and we are also able to see the results in my company also. Like Alok said, we are able to see people have become, if I may use the word, more responsible, because still the reports are coming. So it's a very basic thing, but you have to you have to let go the handle of control. So many things are happening. So we have to understand and we have to keep on learning. I'm still saying last year COVID, no one knew. People were craving, मेरा ऑफिस बंद हो जाए, 2 दिन मैं छुट्टी ले लूं, बॉस छुट्टी नहीं देता है. But now in 1 month they get bored actually. So, but this time and another this time, no, at least we were a little bit prepared. But this time the severity was too high actually.
True.
It literally took us by, especially in Delhi and northern region, it took us by, it was a catastrophe actually, to tell you honestly. It took us, we were almost, it was helpless, like what Rajendra ji also said. Not only helpless, we were feeling frustrated, and it was so I would say, summing up, the companies has to realize it's not about economy only, it's about lives. And more human-centric approach has to be brought in whatever we do.
I mean, very smartly, sir, you picked up this concept of bubble, and I'm sure those who did not understand it would have understood it really well because you articulated it in the best way possible. Back to you, Alok, sir. The new meaning of leadership is now to produce more drivers, leaders than followers. Of course, by skilling potential employees into being trained as drivers. Now, how successful do you think this methodology stands in the new normal, and to what extent, of course?
I think it gets magnified even more today. And I'll tell you, leadership is a very motherhood word, and I like to break it down into 3 parts. And there is a contextual leadership where you have a lot of data, and because you have data and you have awareness, it's less complex. It may be a difficult job, but it's less complex because you have more data. So you're an IT professional and you understand exactly how to write a program, write a code. You're a sales guy, so you know exactly where to go. So that's contextual leadership, right? Somewhere in the middle is situational leadership, where the data may be a little lesser, but you understand the situation. So you have comfort in the situation, and therefore you are able to take a little bit more calculated call on what decisions you have to make. And then towards the end of that continuum, you have situational visionary leadership. Now, visionary leadership is where you have no data. You don't know how the world is going to move 5 years from now, and you have to take big bets on that. So the complexity increases significantly over there. Now, when you look at leadership in this continuum, you will very quickly get answer to your question, which is that we at NSE Corporation believe that every individual has to be a leader in their own right. The junior most person has to be a leader in a contextual leadership. When he is writing a program and when he is solving for a customer, he needs to know what's the smartest, shortest, most affordable way to solve for the customer. That's contextual leadership. When you are a manager and you are managing 1,500 people, you need to understand what's the best way to deploy the people at the right place to get the best return to solve a certain problem. That's situational leadership. When you get to more senior leadership, then things get a little bit more murky. And I'm not trying to say that one is better than the other. You just have to have the number of gray strands in your hair to be able to get to that level. Exactly. But we would like people to master contextual leadership first. And I'm not trying to say that one is better than the other. You just have to have the number of gray strands in your hair to be able to get to that level. But we would like people to master contextual leadership first. get on to situational leadership next, and then get on to visionary leadership. And we have programs at NEC that we've launched. We call it as LEAP, which is leadership excellence and application. So what we try to train people at different levels of the organization is to actually magnify this, and we throw them into situations that are completely unknown to them. Pandemic was an unknown situation, and I go back to the quote that I said before, which is adversity does not build character, it actually reveals it. You already are who you are. Adversity is not going to suddenly wake you up in the morning and say, okay, now I'm going to be different. No, it just reveals it to the world how you're going to respond to a certain situation. So I think the answer to your question is actually absolute yes. It actually gets even more magnified. We should never, I would just underline one statement, that we should never underestimate the power of contextual leadership. And it's extremely important as India Incorporation, as India Enterprises, that we always not focus on visionary leadership. We should also give enough focus and attention to contextual leadership, because they are the building blocks. They are the foundations. And in the previous session, there was a little bit of a conversation happening around Jugaad versus the Japanese style.
Right.
And I'm just going to go back to that. Some of the audience may not have heard that, but that's what I mean to say, that if your contextual leadership is strong, whether you do Jugaad or whether you do long term, it is going to sustain itself. And if the contextual leadership solution is sustaining itself, the visionary leadership will become meaningful. Otherwise, you're going to be in 40,000 feet trying to make a strategy and a vision which is not supported by any foundation of the organization. So I went in a roundabout way, but I wanted to kind of give a perspective that for me, leadership is a harmonious, all-encompassing thing. And I think every individual, junior or senior, have a role to play in that leadership continuum.
While we're talking about the methodology tree, I believe that, we can take it as a crux that contextual leadership is actually the root that will help you reap fruits, if I'm not wrong, if
Absolutely.
I put it the right way.
Absolutely.
Anurag sir, if you could elucidate on the same as to when sir talked about contextual leadership, is there anything else that you would want to add to the platter to make it more, systematic and contextual?
Thanks, Sugandha. I think what Alok ji said was amazing, because India, we love to play with data, right? We enjoy analysis and paralysis. So I think contextual leadership is something we enjoy the most as Indians, and I think as Asians, and I think we love that. So I think, to me, leadership is not just contextual it's a combination of all three, right? Is what I think Alok said. It's contextual, it is visionary, and it is in between, right? The situational. For me, it's all about authenticity, right? So I would call leadership as more authentic leadership, a leadership which in any situation is true, walk the talk, what we call, right? He or she says, deliver, demonstrate, and do that as well. And I think I represent a company which is a staffing company where we deal with 100,000 people, as an employees, right? And I think we deal with people who are leaders on their own right? Let's not undermine the word leadership. I think leaders starts from the very childhood itself, right? From the child, you would see the schools as well, the kids doing it. So I think for me is the word addition to that only would be word authentic. You put authenticity around it, and people start looking towards you as leaders. So that's the only additions that I would do to this. What I think Alok has summed up beautifully. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for adding your viewpoint as well. Rajendra sir, how should, new age leaders be now mentored to meet the demands of existing employees and newbies? Because earlier the case was such that, the employers used to judge the, employee while hiring. But today I feel the tables have turned. Me being an employee myself, we also, to an extent, judge the employer as to how successful or how comfortable my journey would be within an organization that I'm actually applying for. How do you think now that the leaders should be mentored to meet such demands of an employee, of course?
Yeah. I'm actually very interestingly hearing Alok and Anurag. All their knowledge and experience we are practicing in our company. We have reorganized our company, repurposed our company. We have made a paradigm shift towards green portfolio. By 2040, we'll be zero carbon. Imagine a company of our size. Having said that, Let me also add one more point to what you were discussing so far is the purpose. Purpose decides how the leadership should behave. And that's where everything else falls in place. Having now come to the point you mentioned about employee and employers. You see, this is a very classic approach which is being used, including in companies in MNCs. We also have something called peer assessment. It's not employer judging employees, it's not employees judging employers. We also want peers judging peers. I'm judged by almost 50 odd leadership across the globe whom I have never met, but they have a right to judge me because my report card is available to all of them. And we of course meet 2 or 3 times in the year. So having said that, there are 3 ways to look at it. Mentoring leaders, actually, as Alok and Anurag said, is all steps, all stages. The drivers are all stages. But please remember, pandemic has appended a lot of these notions. The classical approach has to be reinvented in the new times. So for example, people who could not work in factories, etc., but could do much better in work from home because they're suddenly more productive. They have more tools in hand, they are more near family, they found themselves, they found their kitchens, and they found their families. It's a new revelation for many of them. Many people who we thought will be great leaders at sight we have discovered that in these stressful times, they have to reorganize themselves. So adversity, as Alok said, brings the character out of you. And if that character requires molding through mentoring, very important. That's the way we think we should go. If that reveals the difficulties in working from home, we are trying to get mental health. We have employee access program to reach out to them. Mentoring is not merely boss and line manager's conversation with subordinate. It's the organizational conversation with him. He has to feel connected to the purpose. He has to feel connected to the leadership, to the management, and right up to the top. And therefore, one big tool we always implement. We have global calls every second week. We have weekly calls in the SBUs. We have almost a weekly call that I hold for my employees. And these are Q&A. These are not unilateral conversations. So unless everybody feels related, whether he's a leader or whether he's a workhorse or whether he's a recluse, all of them have to be integrated. I cannot single out and say this guy has to be leader. He's a leader of what? He has to lead something. He has to lead the same people for whom we are creating an ecosystem. So my point is, things have very substantially changed. Seniors and employees judging employers, etc., peers should also be there, and the entire concepts have to be revisited. You have experts in this panel who can elaborate to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Rajiv sir, I would really want you to give us a conclusion of this discussion in your own words and, take away words for our audience to know as to what exactly does this session stands for.
Yeah, Sugandha, actually last question you had asked me also, and I'm very keen to respond to that because that subject is something close to my heart. Actually.
Please do so. Please do.
Mentoring. I really do not know the pronunciation, but I know the symbolic means and how it is to be done to some extent, not fully.
Concept should be clear, sir.
Yeah. So I'm being very frank. We have to see our children actually. How do they behave? And relate with what I was behaving, how I was behaving with my parents, and how was I behaving with my grandparents. Now, the children or the young employees, as often called millennials or whatever you may call, they are smarter these days. They are expressive. They are tech savvy or mobile savvy. They do not believe in hierarchy or layers, so-called layers. The way I used to talk to my parents, they talk to me only 1% like that. And with the grandparents, they talk like friends. And only 1% is more leverage given to parents these days. Okay. So the world has changed. They are the younger generation, younger employees, and I'm talking of employees up to 10, 15 years, 10, 12 years, 0 to 5 years, 12 years experience. They are demanding. They are looking for equality. They are looking for ownership. Of course, salary, perks, incentives, those things are there, but they are looking for these things in a very meaningful kind of way. So now what should leaders do actually? We have to understand this world has changed. We have to go for things like reverse mentoring, where we have to learn the new age skills from them, whether it's how to use internet more effectively, how to search Google more effectively. We also know, but they are sharper than us. How to learn from startups. They use so many apps, while some of the so-called leaders like me do not use so many apps. They use 2, 3, 4 maybe, Uber, Zomato and things like that. But they use umpteen apps. Okay, so we need to learn. So we need to, and even the decision making, their decision making is pretty fast because it's not bogged down by age or process. We keep on processing. If a leave application comes, we keep on processing. What will happen? They immediately take the action. Okay. So mentoring has to begin with reverse mentoring. We have to be open. We have to be communicative. We have to have more trust, and we have to let it go actually. And since we are talking of organizations, we have to also see, in my company, we call it DOA or whatever, the roles and responsibilities in terms of financial authorities, which is given to people, or decision making, because it's all about decision making as well. We have to give more power and more autonomy, more financial approval, go aheads to the youngsters. So all this will bring in change, and also inclusivity. That's one of my favorite subjects. So that has to happen. So my words on mentoring is this. Coming back to how to sum it up, it was a beautiful session. It's very clear, all the esteemed panelists, the way they have said, they are very forward-looking. And why? Because the world demands it. The situation demands it.
It's actually the need of the hour, I would say.
If the leaders do not behave in with a very distinct kind of attachment to the employees, to the processes, and if they do not show the desire to change, the companies are doomed, to be honest. And when I say doomed means, yes, some companies will survive, but if we do not learn at this moment, where lives are being lost, where the whole business models are being topsy-turvy, we need to understand what will make us succeed in the years to come. So there have been a lot of messages, very positive, and I know you will bring in some kind of analysis and maybe share good points with us later in the magazine, or I don't know. So we are
indeed, sir. We'll come out with a session coverage wherein we try and include all the points which have been said by the esteemed panelists. It takes time to frame the answers also, and to frame and to explain as to how to put it in better words. So yeah, I'm sure we'll try our level best to actually come out with all the points that have been covered here. Anurag sir, I see you want to say something.
Just want to say one thing, as all the leaders, and I see president and CEOs here, right? We used to love a phrase called return on assets, right? Before the pandemic, how much we invest and what we get out of it. What at least we have learned in our company, and I think I'm sure all will resonate, value of our assets, which is nothing but our people. I think that's something is my favorite learning, and my favorite tagline to my people said, move away from return on assets, because that's we've been doing for ages. Our balance sheet, cash flows, P&L will show that. But can we start worrying about value of our asset, which is our people? And I think that probably, I thought I would just say that because I strongly...
It's a really good takeaway. I must say that it's a really, sometimes you just in one line, you sum it up everything. And that was one of the, it just summed up everything that we talked within this discussion. Alok sir, I would really like you also to give your parting ways or a word of advice to your audience, if you would want to say anything.
I thank you. Thanks for the chance to do that, Sugandha. I just have one we are living in an extremely complex and connected world. And I've always imbibed and believed that, you should not, as Mahatma Gandhi once said, the change has to start from you. And I think it so goes for leadership. I think we should stop worrying about who's coming in and trying to do and fix things for us. In that continuum of leadership that I talked about, contextual, situational, and visionary, you need to figure out where you belong. And you need to drive your own leadership, because each of these three is vitally important for the health of the organization and for the collective experience that we bring together. I think it's important that as a head of the company, somebody has to take the decisions, but I think everybody has to play the role to carry and lift the organization and keep people motivated. And I think adversity, like I said, it's one of my favorite quotes, adversity does not build character, it reveals it. So we have to ask ourselves, what's the character that is being revealed with we as a leader? Even though I'm the smallest guy in the organization, what leadership trait am I bringing to the organization? It's a thought to think about over the weekend.
No, actually, it is very important also. While sitting at this position, you got to give something exquisite to your organization that they're looking up to. So yes, what do you bring with your leadership skill set is really important for the company. And it's actually, I feel it is embedded in the ethos of every organization as to what you really believe in. Over to you, Rajendra sir. Would really want to know your parting ways as well. A word of advice for our audience.
Actually, I am taking away more than I would give as an advice. So I would really acknowledge Rajiv, Alok, Anurag, brilliant exposition. From the angle that I sit here as a president of a company, and also which is globally present, and it's much bigger than I could actually fathom myself. I think the fundamental is that the purpose and the values of the company can navigate through pandemic times. You cannot and should remain unshakably attached to that. In our purpose, not only we are becoming green, we are as ESG compliant. And now the last point that I want to re-emphasize is the human centricity of the organization. Somebody said they are the assets. I would even go beyond assets. They are human beings. Assets have a value. They are invaluable. So that's my takeaway, Sugandha.
Thank you so much. Now, my last question is, not from us, it's from the audience. So we've been getting number of questions. This is an open-ended question to anyone. Anyone can answer that. There are people who are asking that when you talk about employee centricity, if in times there are certain companies who are not able to give you a handsome salary, with what all advantages or skill sets will you be hiring people? And actually, why should they join any organization if they're not giving them a handsome salary? What is it? What is that one aspect that you can attract talent apart from money? And Rak sir, you can.
Respect for them. Give them self-respect, self-esteem, and empowerment. People will surely join in and retain and work for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, panelists. It's been a delight to talk to everybody. I believe the session will come out really well. People have been enjoying. And thank you so much for joining with us on this BW discussion. Hope to see you in future as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us over.
Thank you, Sugandha, and all the panelists.
To everyone.
Thanks.
Pleasure
everyone.
to have been here, and great learning for me. Thank you.
God bless all of you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Bye.
Thank you.